Charlene Muna, political leader of the United National Congress, the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa, all of my great colleagues, brothers and sisters at all levels of our party, all of those who have spoken on the platform here tonight, those who are listening on radio and TV Jagriti and logged on our respective social media platforms, let me say a pleasant good night to each and every one of you. Trinidad and Tobago is on the brink of collapse just after only 7 years of Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley being the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. The reality is our country's murder toll for 2022 currently stands at 310 when compared to 206 for the same period in 2021. So crime is runaway. It is out of control. 150,000 persons have lost their jobs. There are more potholes in Trinidad and Tobago more than roads. In fact, we know Brian Lara to be the Prince of Port of Spain. Tonight I want to rename the Minister of Works and Transport, Rohan Sinanan, as the Prince of Potholes because of his incompetence and his inability to deal with our nation's roads. Runaway inflation in our country. Families now are banning their bellies. Mothers and fathers cannot put 3 square meals on the table. You cannot get appointments from a timely point of view within our public health system. The waiting time is 2 and 3 years. Surgeries, the waiting time is 2 and 3 years. And critical institutions or arms within the Ministry of Public Health, such as the catheterization lab, the cath lab at Mount Hope, is not functional. This is the state of affairs under Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley. And that is why I am saying to you here tonight that our country is on the brink of collapse based on their incompetence and their inability to govern and deliver to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And tonight I want to deal with a couple of issues that have resurfaced, and it is the opposition's responsibility under the leadership of Kamla Prasad Bisesa to remind you and to call out the PNM on these issues. We cannot remain silent, and that is our role as the opposition of Trinidad and Tobago. Recently, we heard of one Kamal Georges of CNC3 fame resigning his position to take up a position at TSTT. And then it went low, and only over the weekend, Kamal Georges, not TSTT, not TSTT, but Kamal Georges took to social media to announce that he is now the senior manager of environmental, social, and reputation management at TSTT. Listen to that title. I nearly get confused. I nearly trip up myself trying to remember this title. And as I said, we have not heard from the board. We have not heard from the Minister of Public Utilities. And we have not heard from a lady named Lisa Agard. And it is our role here to ask tonight, since when was this position of senior management of environmental social and reputation management become vacant at TSTT. Tonight, the UNC is asking who was the previous holder of that position and why did they resign? Or is this a new position created especially for Kamal Georges? In fact, you know, Indarsingh is a man on the ground. So Indarsingh saying or hearing what Tong say, and everybody in Tong could tell you how Kamal Georges get the job. But the opposition and Indarsingh would like to hear the truth because we ain't believe what Tong saying. So we want to know, and that is why I want to find out on behalf of the opposition, when was this vacancy advertised and where? Or did they keep it very quietly, exclusively for Kamal? What were the qualifications needed for this vacancy? Or was this experience, or was the experience primarily one of working with Lisa Agard at CNC3? That was the main qualification. How many people, other people, applied for the job? And where were they interviewed for it? That is what we need to find out from Marvin Gonzalez, the Minister of Public Utilities. Or I want to find out, did Lisa Agard arrange a special interview for just Kamal Georges? Tonight, another question that has to be asked is, what is the remuneration package for this vacancy, inclusive of the perks and salary? And what special duty allowance, or did Lisa Agard authorize any other perks to Kamal Georges for services rendered? I do not know, but we certainly want to find out, because Tong is saying, and sources at TSTT is whispering, that the perks and the compensation package is in the vicinity of $80,000. Since Kamal Georges is now the manager of environmental, social, and reputation management at TSTT, we are calling on him to respond in the interest of TSTT's reputation as a corporate citizen, as an employer in this country. Silence is not an option. Kamal just cannot stay quiet and call that George, my brothers and sisters. And then Lisa Agard also needs to respond as the CEO of TSTT, because this Lisa Agard, for some reason, is highly favored by the PNM and the 1%. And tonight I will demonstrate that to you, because in 2021, the PNM appointed Lisa Agard as the CEO of TSTT after acting almost for 1 year. In 2018, she was appointed by the PNM as the chairman of CNMG, and in 2017, she was the executive director of Masses Communication, which the government brought over and renamed Amplia. And you must never forget that this government spent over $225 million to acquire Masses Communication. She moved from her role at Amplia and became the CEO of the whole of TSTT. And in 2014, she was appointed Managing Director at Guardian Media, which is home to CNC3, Trinidad Guardian, and the recently shut down Akashvani. Do you remember when TSTT under the government, as I said, agreed to purchase Masses Communication for approximately $255 million at taxpayers' expense, and the government brought massive communication promising that it would add value for the people of Trinidad and Tobago and that it will add value to TSTT. What it has not brought any value to TSTT. And if Lisa Agard and Massey Communication were adding so much to the value of TSTT, then why over the last couple of years, over 2,000 workers have been sent home at TSTT, and in the latest round of retrenchment or batch of retrenchment, TSTT sent home 468 workers in 2022. And we have to ask, is her role at TSTT one where they have embarked on a deliberate and orchestrated policy to strangle the company and then sell off the 49% of the government shareholding in TSTT in favor of the 51% majority shareholder? Will there be a fire sale in terms of this 49% in assets that we own as the people of Trinidad and Tobago, my brothers and sisters? Since Lisa Agard is good at cutting down things, I hope they will put her in charge of Massey's supermarket so she can cut down the price of Baigan, because we see on social media where one Baigan was sold in Massey for $71, one head of cauliflower for nearly $71, and pimentos being sold for nearly $56 a pound. Under Kamla Prasad Bisesa, we could have made and enjoyed Baigan choka and tomatoes choka. Under Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, is Baigan choking we, and we thinking twice if we could make tomatoes choka because of their failure to deal with rising food prices in Trinidad and Tobago, my brothers and sisters. Rowleynomics is killing Trinidad and Tobago. According to Rowleynomics, we must forget the poor people and give the rich more to make more money and hope their wealth will trickle down for the benefit of the poor. Under Rowleynomics, we must create a job for Kamal Georges while thousands of persons are sent home. Under Rowleynomics, we must let Camille Robinson Regis chastise struggling citizens who, because of this government, are unable to make mortgage payments on their low income, while Camille Robinson Regis allegedly made out a check to TTMF for $45,000. Was that check for Camille, or did you owe TTMF outstanding payments yesterday while chastising the poor for doing the same thing, my brothers and sisters? Under Rowleynomics, businesses across Trinidad and Tobago are closing, are struggling to make ends meet. But one minister, Stuart Young, had to recuse himself no less than 98 times, while Faris Al-Rawi had to recuse himself over 40 times because they held interest with companies or proposals being considered by the cabinet. And tonight, I am calling on the Prime Minister to provide a list of the matters for Faris Al-Rawi and Stuart Young that they had to recuse themselves so that the country can see what business they had with matters before the cabinet and how much money they had in terms of their friends and families who stood to make under Rowleynomics, my brothers and sisters. Because under Rowleynomics, we can send parents on the breadlines, make them scrunt and suffer to them to mind their families, work parents to the bone with 3 and 4 jobs, and then blame parents for the crime system in Trinidad and Tobago, my brothers and sisters, under Rowleynomics, we can see Terrence Indarsingh shedding a tear for the people on the promenade during COVID, but waving flag, waving banner and rag during the THA campaigning last year in Tobago at the height of the pandemic. Under Rowleynomics, we see where recently the World Health Organization has declared monkeypox a global health emergency, but Rowley is declaring crime as a public health emergency. And after he and his government has failed to deal with crime after 7 long years. Tonight, we ask under Rowleynomics, what is the state of affairs in terms of the Ministry of Health state of readiness as it relates to fighting monkeypox in Trinidad and Tobago? And before I leave you here tonight, my brothers and sisters, I want to ask the Prime Minister, because over the weekend, I read an article that was headlined, Labour's Withdrawal from the National Tripartite Advisory Council, Holding TNT Citizens to Ransom, an article which was published in yesterday's Express, a special commentary on the Prime that was written by one Roy Mitchell, a former special advisor and coordinator of the National Tripartite Advisory Council. And tonight, I want to briefly quote from this article that he wrote in yesterday's Express, and I quote, "Genuine patriots of Trinidad and Tobago should be disturbed by the stubbornness of the leaders of the nation, leaders of the nation's labor, who persist in denying themselves of their honorable place as an essential constituent of the National Tripartite Advisory Council." Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley must have drawn from the deepest soul-driven instincts of magnanimity and humility when at his recent news conference, he stretched out his hand of peace, harmony, and goodwill to the National Tripartite Advisory Council, former labor leaders, union members, representatives, to impress upon them the virtues and wisdom of returning to the tripartite fold, end of quote. And tonight, I simply want to ask the Prime Minister and his Minister of Labor, Steve McClatchy, who has now emerged as the new Hardat of the PNM. If you go back in time, you could remember a fella by the name of Hardat, who was in Parliament. He took a vow of silence. He was the MP for Nariva. He said nothing. And this Minister of Labor is the new Hardat of the PNM as it relates to labor issues in Trinidad and Tobago, because he nor any member of the government can tell you what are the achievements of the National Tripartite Advisory Council. In fact, up till today, we do not know if Camille is chairing or Penelope is chairing, because Penelope is the new Minister of Planning. They operate in secrecy, they operate in silence, but they are deadly in terms of their focus on destroying the people of this country. And in that regard, my brothers and sisters, I want to tell the Prime Minister, return to what? Return to what? You brutalized, you lied, you deceived, you trampled upon the rule of law and every possible tenet of good industrial relations in Trinidad and Tobago. That is why over 150,000 persons have lost their jobs. You treated the union movement, the labor movement, with scorn and disdain. I want to remind you, Prime Minister Rowley, when you closed the Tourism Development Company, you deceived, You mama guide the Communication Workers Union, telling them submit a proposal to the Cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago at a time when you insisted in closing down the TDC. And the 9,000 families at Petrotrin, you lied to them. You said that the government was not closing down Caroni after spending $63 million. Not a consultant recommended the closure of Petrotrin, and you continue to trample upon them. Tonight, I challenge you to put on the agenda of the National Tripartite Advisory Council what is the state of and future of the Cabinet appointed committee in Tawassa. What is the state and future of the Cabinet appointed committee as it relates to Lake Asphalt? What is the state of the National Insurance Fund? What is the state of reviewing labor legislation in Trinidad and Tobago, my brothers and sisters, as it relates to the Retrenchment and Severance Benefit Act and other pieces of labor legislation that is of critical value to the over 150,000 persons who have lost their jobs? If you are committed to ensuring that there is proper social dialogue, the United National Congress will definitely tell the labor movement of Trinidad and Tobago, return to the National Tripartite Advisory Council, because it is under Kamla Prasad Bisesa. We respected the rule of law. We respected every tenet of good industrial relation practices in Trinidad and Tobago, and it is only a government led by Kamla Prasad Bisesa that will respect the labor movement and embrace improving the quality of life and standard of living of every citizen and every worker of Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you.